Hi, I'm Mark from Snooker Crazy, and I received a question over the weekend and also seen it on one of the Facebook forums about how to clean the tarnishing that you get on the older type badges. For me, I would leave it on there, mainly because it reflects the age of the cue and it just gives it that, I think, that added beauty really. So you get really old cues and that really comes as part of it. There's 3 examples there. We got the picture type badge. I mean, I know they're upside down, but you can see, but they're the picture type badge. Little bit of tarnishing on this old Joe Davis club cue and quite a lot on there. And generally what it is it's a once the badge is finished, there's a lacquer either sprayed or painted over the top, and it's that lacquer that tends to tarnish and go yellow with age. Some sort of discussion as to whether a lot of that was the old smoky atmospheres, but either way it goes yellow, and it's how to clean it or remove that lacquer. And then you have a choice really, if you get it off, whether you re-lacquer it or leave it as it is, because obviously the lacquer is to protect some of the badge. So I've got 2 old ones we'll have a go on. So personally I wouldn't do it, but for the sake of the video we'll maybe try a couple of methods just to see. Now it's worth mentioning that lacquer isn't the same right across the board. There are many types of lacquer. So you may try something and it doesn't work, and it might work here today. So you really need to test a little bit on the side just before to see whether it does or it doesn't work. And there's many types of things you can use, and a lot more I'm going to mention today, but I mean sort of the normal ones are something as obscure as something like WD-40, 10,000 grit steel wool, denatured alcohol, acetone's a good one, nail varnish remover is a very good one containing acetone, which is the one that I generally use, or what I prefer to use is either my nail, if it's a brittle lacquer, to get the majority off, or the steel wool, because I can feel how much I'm going through, and then you decide afterwards obviously whether I re-lacquer over the top or not. But it depends whether you're having them as a playing cue, or if you're a collector, I would very much doubt that you're going to be doing this unless you're doing a total refurbish and stripping lacquer off, as I've done on a few old ones to make them playing cues, but let's have a go anyway and see how we get on. Right, there's a couple of club cues, the old Joe Davis ones that are really commonplace, both machine spliced. Don't want to do this on ones what I consider my better type cues, if you like, but we'll give it a go with this one to start with, and then we'll pop over and have a go with the other one to see how that goes. So first things first, I must admit, if I'm using things like acetones and stuff like that, I always like to use these disposable gloves. Couple of reasons. One, someone said to me a little while ago, if something's on you, it's in you and you ingest it. So I've always used a barrier cream in the past, but I think these are good for protecting hands, and also when you finish you can actually get whatever it is you're using with tissues, damp it and put it in that, and actually throw it away so it's inside it. But anyway, I diverse. So we can use a bit of tissue. I won't use the WD-40s on these. We'll start with an acetone, I think. Now something like that is about £1.25. You get loads of it. So let's have a little go with this one. This is probably the go-to one for me, along with the steel wool. Thing to remember with this, most of them are flammable, I mean highly flammable, so be very careful. So what should we do? We'll start, you can see this side is a little bit more yellow than that, so let's go down and just see how we get on, whether it actually does anything. Hopefully down the top left hand corner. Yeah, it's not doing bad actually. So this lacquer has obviously been thinned by that. Be careful where you use this, because you don't want to spill it all over carpets and make them flammable, so I do it in a safe place. Let's probably try and do it down the whole of that side. Obviously you can't see lots of what's going on, but it is cleaning it up, so that will be something that you'll carry on with, I think. So yeah, that's actually not bad. Normally I would do this in a bit more of a ventilated area because it is quite potent, so I'm just going to make this a bit easier for myself. generally do it in a circular motion. So already it's making my eyes go a little bit, so you have to be a little bit careful. But as for cleaning it up, it's pretty reasonable actually. So yeah, pretty reasonable, pretty quick. I've chosen these two cues. I've got lots of old cues, but I've chosen these two particularly because they're slightly different on what's covered on the badges, I think. So we'd obviously have to do it slightly different to clean them. But already I think, see, that's pretty good actually. And I would carry on like that. But you get the idea. But the point is, you're trying to find a liquid that has an affinity to whatever the lacquer type is, and breaking it down a bit like thinners and paint. So let's give that one a little bit more. So the point of the video is just to find something that will clean it up, and then it's up to you how much you go from there. Always like to keep it away from the wood, because you never know how it's going to react with the wood or what's on this. Obviously if there's lacquer on there, then you're going to start to discolour it and take it away. But already, yeah, that's pretty good. Now, one thing you can't say, or you won't know, is you're not going to know how that's going to affect the paint. So obviously you have an indent where you've got Joe Davis club cue and stuff like that, so it's whether you then take some of that paint off and you then want to go in obviously and bring it back. I think that's probably another video. I would normally paint all of that and then I would start to rub it off, but that's another video. So just be careful, because it depends how much work you want to put into that. But certainly that has an affinity to that type of lacquer, so it's coming off. So let's have a look at the other one. So the WD-40, it won't work on any of these, but it's something that might work on one of the lacquers that you have. So I think at the moment we'll stick that aside. We'll take out the other Joe Davis cue, and we'll try a different way with that. So what I'd normally do with any old stuff, I normally put it inside these, wrap it round. I normally put some water on it. Just a little tip for you: if you use oils that are flammable, if you breathe in, wait a while, and then breathe in the oil can all the way out, and then you're basically breathing carbon dioxide in. So in other words, the top of the oil can, you haven't got oxygen. Obviously the two together are explosive and flammable, but if you breathe that and you had carbon dioxide in there, it'd be a lot better. So I digress. Right, so if we have this one, which is heavily tarnished. Now if you've got nails, my nails are pretty used for a lot of stuff. Some of these lacquers, they go brittle, so I would generally, if you can see it, move it over the top, because you can actually move your way through a lot of it, and it would save you a lot of work if you could. Now this one already had the paint missing from some of the club cue bit, but if you're careful you can go through and get a lot of it, but it's up to you, because personally I prefer, if I'm going to do that, to repaint these bits, go over it and then rub off the surface with a steel wool. So let's have a go with a 10,000 grit steel wool and just see what sort of effect that has on it. Obviously difficult to do this on the video, but let's just have a quick go. As you can see, it's starting to take the paint off of that. So again, we'll go up in the corner and try it. Now, you might not be able to see in there, but it's slowly starting to come away from that. So it's going to take you a while, I would say. Personally, I'd always try and find a lacquer remover. You seem to be coming off of that all right. Let's try and do this half of the badge. So if you want to speed the video up, if you like, just to get over that bit, fine. But I'll do that half and I'll just do it with steel wool. And just to see whether it cleans it or removes it without taking all the lettering off. So the bottom bit was already bad, but the top bit that says the Joe Davis, that bit there, that's always been okay. So let's just see. At least to give you an idea whether you want to attempt it. So again, personally it's not my cup of tea. I keep saying it because I think that's the right thing for older cues. Yeah, you can see it's pretty much coming right off now. So it will work and the lettering's still there, but this is really a polishing steel wool. It's got a lot of uses obviously. But you can see the distinct difference now between the two. So if you carry on like that, that will definitely work. Just to show with the WD-40, so I don't think it works on some. I don't think it'll work on this one, but hey, let's surprise ourselves. Put it on the other side. For me, it's got a lot of uses, but I don't think it's going to do that one. So we're doing down the bottom left, the bottom left-hand side. I think we'll be on yours. I don't think it'll move it at all. Nah, just polishing it if anything. So for me, yeah, use a steel wool, but you've got to remember that steel wool is going to take part of the Joe Davis off, in my opinion. And if you rub the surface down too much, then you haven't got much of a groove in there to get the paint back in. But generally when I've done it, it's been fine. But again, for something like that, if you didn't have the WD-40 on it, I would definitely be moving my nail in there, because I know that most of it would come off like that. It's a bit slippery now because of WD-40, but once it dries, you'd get through most of that and it would come up nice. But failing that, if you have a cue where you want a decent badge on it, and well, a decent badge I should say, as in all the way around, or even if you want a new one, to be fair, if your cue's good and you want the badge to be looking perfect, if you don't do it that way and it doesn't work, there was a guy called the Q Badger on Facebook. It was very, very good. So I'd go there if that's the case and try and get one exact same sizes. But you should be able to get that off. I don't generally have any trouble. As you can see, we haven't spent more than about sort of 10 minutes on that, on the two, and you can see it's coming away. But as I say, these sort of things, you're going to give yourself a lot more work. So it's a tough choice, but I'd leave it as is unless your badge is really damaged, and either replace it or chip it off your nail if it will come, or use the acetone nail remover. But dodgy one, don't like messing with old cues, not really on stuff like that. So I think it's reflective of its age. But there's a couple of things, save you trying it and wrecking a cue. So at least you can see what does and doesn't work. That's about it. So hopefully that gave you a few extra ideas for whether to have a go or not. And certainly you can use that on just your standard normal type badges. So just these, if you can see it, just your little round ones, if they start to go. But you'd have to ask what the benefit really is, to be fair. So if you're going to do it, then at least that gives you a bit of a head start before you start jumping into something. Anyway, I hope that was a little bit useful, and I'll see you on the next video.